Hey everybody, I don't know about you, but as you've watched out over the world, the war in Russia and Ukraine is not just isolated to Eastern Europe. It's spread all over the world, and you can see it in market instabilities. You can see it here. People who do not think that that war is affecting you, all you got to do is look at gas prices. You look at your food prices. You see the global change that has happened. But you know something that's also affected investments as well. And I've said all along, legacy precious metals is your navigator. They're the ones that see you through to get to the next level. The good news about this is even with market volatility, market instability, you've got options. And gold prices are rising as investors turn to gold. And gold presents a hedge against this inflation and that protects you against the weakening dollar, which we are seeing. Legacy Precious Metals is the only company I trust to deal with gold and silver and the other precious metals. You need this investment. You need this as part of your portfolio to keep you buffered from what we're seeing in the world, war and volatility in the market. This is where you need to be. Call Legacy Precious Metals today. Be proactive about this. Get on board with it. Call them at 866-528-1903, 866-528-1903, or you can download their free investor's guide at legacypminvestments.com. legacypminvestments.com, your navigator in a volatile world of investments.
Do you want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered, and this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't gonna be that fun.
Hey everybody, it's Doug Collins. Glad to have you on the Doug Collins podcast again. Today is a special episode. You know, we always try to bring you some of the best and freshest out there, and this is going to be one that I think you're really going to like. Well, we've talked a lot about the issues out there of economy and investments and where the inflation is going and how the Biden administration basically has zero clue to what they're doing, and it's become very obvious. But it also affects everyday life, whether it's your gas prices, your food prices. But how about your investments? How about the things in life that actually can make you money, set you up in your retirement accounts, do the things that you want to do so that you have some independence and financial stability? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're going out talking and looking out around in the world for the get-rich-quick schemes, the folks who are telling you how to do it, and frankly, if you look into their background, they ain't got no money either. Not the way to do it. And so today I've come across a guy that I've got to know. I like a lot. I love his attitude. You're going to just fall for his passion because it's just great to watch. Patrick Assalone is someone who's going to talk about teaching you, and what his company does is teaching you about investments and how to trade. And he also has an interesting background as well. So this is going to be one of the fun episodes of the Doug Collins podcast. Sit back, strap in, because you're going to want to take notes on this one. Patrick, thanks for being a part of the Doug Collins podcast.
Thanks for having me, Doug.
Patrick, explain to people now, and I'm going to let you do it because it's your baby. You do it better than anybody. Explain to me what where you're at right now in your life, what you're doing, and how you're training, and then let's sort of branch that off into how it can actually help people.
I'll give you the cliff notes for that. Do several things here. First and foremost, I have a trading education company, Target Trading Academy, where we teach people how to trade in the futures market. Not the stock market, not options. That stuff is way too rigged, way too dangerous, and absolutely not in the retail consumer's favor. It's a rigged game. We can have a 5-hour show, and I can go through it piece by piece on how it's rigged. The futures market, on the other hand, is a zero-sum game, and it runs roughly 24 hours a day. So, for example, let's say when New York closes at 4:15, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you're stuck in a position. You can't get out. Well, when you're in the futures market, you can protect yourself roughly 24 hours, and I teach people how to do this, how not to be in the market, how not to have a position, how not to have exposure, how to manage your risk, where to get in and where to get out. It's a real simple prospect. I also am a Series 3 license holder, which means I am a commodities futures broker license. I give people advice on futures. I own a CTA, a commodities trading advisory service. I'm licensed by the NFA. I'm more than happy to get on your show anytime you want with any alleged financial advisor and duke it out with them and blow them out of the water when they say people like me they're so dangerous for trading futures. And the reason we're dangerous is because those frauds can't make a commission because they're not licensed to trade futures.
Well, let's take this into a step by step. For someone who just dropped into this podcast, and I've done this before with other things because I want people to understand as well. We may be a conservative political, we talk life, we talk politics, but we also talk finances. And I've had people on about Bitcoin, I've had people on about other things in life. But let's break this down. You made a great distinction. I was going to let you make it. And that is that you talk about futures trading as opposed to, what we see right now with what in many ways is the stock market. The average investor out here is chasing an invisible car or a dog that they'll never catch. And it's the investors, it's the institutional traders and everything else that are really marketing this market. Explain the difference and you talked about how you could go all day with about the stock side. Give us a little bit of the difference. So if somebody's sitting there saying, okay, now I get it.
Futures front run everything. And essentially the reason being is because they're open before the pit session in New York is. So let's say that you were holding a position in the S&P 500 and it's for all intents and purposes at 4,500. You wake up the next morning, it's at 4,550. Well, how's that possible? It's because the futures market ran it up. That's how it works. Okay. So what you don't know about the futures market is enormous. What you do know is it's a lot safer than just about anything else there is. Now, how does it possibly run up? Well, because the same banks, hedge funds, large financial entities, they're the ones running this market up in the overnight. They're the ones that run it down in the pit session. They're the ones that crash the market. And then you call your broker and your broker says, buy the dip. Which one? How do I know this is the last dip? You don't know that because they don't know. They have no idea. So what makes us different? I'm not trying to beat the big money. I sort of draw the correlation between what I do and riding a bus. Everybody in your audience has probably ridden a bus. When a bus is coming down the street and you're standing at the bus stop, what do? Jump in the middle of the street, run face first into the bus, expect it to stop? No. You wait at the bus stop. It opens the doors. You get on, you take a ride. And if it's not your bus, you'll let it go. You just sit and wait. Well, I teach people patience and discipline to wait for that right bus. What's the right bus? Again, I'm not trying to beat the big money. I'm waiting for the big money to reveal themselves, and I'm jumping on their back and letting them take us for a ride, hence the bus correlation.
Okay. Well, and so in you're looking at this, and one of the things, and you had sent offline, you had talked about this sort of the bust. Patrick, everybody wants to be rich. Everybody wants to get in the stock market and find that, Microsoft, Apple 30 years ago at $5 a share, buy 1,000 shares, and it goes up 150 million%. We saw it last year, and really sort of the session we had a little bit offline was what we call the meme stock issue. And in some way, and I think, and you'll take offense at this, and I'm not not to be controversial, but some will say, well, futures is like this day trading kind of stuff. You're just guessing, you're not sure. Go to the fundamentals, buy the dip, as you said, buy on the Warren Buffett, sit back. I've got billions, so I can do whatever I want to do. Take this a step further. For the average person who would like to learn more, besides target trading, and you're actually doing this. Is just regular investing the best way that you're looking at is just become passive? Is that why one of the underpinnings of our economy has become so volatile?
Well, I'm one of those, and I've been on the other side. I had a Series 7, a 66. I was on the retail side. I saw what the institutional side did when I was at Wachovia Securities. And it was strange how the institutional side would always tell you XYZ was a conviction buy. Make sure your clients are all in it. The reason is the institutional side had already run it up as much as they possibly could, and they needed a bunch of suckers to offload the stock on. Because without those buyers, they couldn't sell. And that's essentially what these big banks are. If you think for one moment that there's this Chinese wall protecting them from you, there's not. They know exactly what you're holding. They know exactly what you're being sold. They know what positions you're in. They know this because why? Your financial advisor is most likely selling them one of their products that create the biggest rip or commission for them. They're not managing for you. They call you when they need more money. They call you when they've got something that's a great buy and you should do this. I don't make any money off any of my students aside from education. I am the only person in this business that actually calls the levels out the session before, where to get in, where to get out, and how to do it with how many the day before. Nobody else does that. You can go to my YouTube page. You can go to our Trustpilot page. I got 100 5-star reviews, not one negative review. You can go to our Facebook page. I'll put up a challenge to anybody out there, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, whatever you want. Prove what I'm doing is not real every day, day in and day out. And part of that deal is when I beat you, you have to come on the Doug Collins show and admit you're a hack fraud.
Well, that offer stands out there. If anybody listens to this podcast, we can definitely take that fight up. That won't be a problem. All right. It sounds good. You're out there. People have been, they put their money, they have their broker, they call them, they do their TD Ameritrade account, they do the Charles Schwab account, they trade a little bit here and there. And it is. And this is something that I want to talk to you about. Just go back to your retail side for a moment. When you're there, because I think this is where most people are. So I want to, if they're listening to this podcast, I would say the vast majority of my listeners are still in that retail kind of side mindset. And how do we let them see this future side, if from what you're saying, but also see another way to do this. All of this, of course, it's your own risk, it's your own learning. You learn this on your own. For example, we were seeing stocks go up, and I'll just use an example recently. Ford. We'll use Ford as an example. Or Rivian. Maybe that's an even better one. Where you're seeing the investor, the internal side of the investors, the IPOs, or in Ford's case, a legacy stock that has moved up progressively. Say it moves up $5, $6 in a month and a half, doing well. All of a sudden, I noticed something because I was watching this one. I was just curious because I had some friends that were talking about it. So Ford got up to like $22 a share. And all of a sudden, you started seeing 3 or 4 of the big money newsletters all of a sudden come out and say, Ford's topping out. Ford is, we're not going to go more than 24, 27, downside of 21. And yet in any of those analyses, it was no discussion on why Ford, who was selling trucks, was selling cars, was getting everything looked good. But all of a sudden, if you didn't know, it's the big institutional side over here said, oh, we want to put the brakes on this a little bit. How accurate did I get? And how does that affect average people's stock trading?
Perfectly. You got it right on, because the ones who ran it up from 6 to 22, only the institutional money can do that. I call them the big money. So you're going with hedge funds, you're going with banks, you're going with the BlackRocks and the Vanguards of the world. They're the only ones that can run it up. After they've run it up to a place where they think they can dump it off to a bunch of retail people, that's what they do. They get in the newsletters because those hacks that write the newsletters are working with them. Who do you think is telling them this? Okay, I challenge anybody to go into those secret fundamentals and show me where those hidden gems are. They're hacks. Nobody freaking knows. A couple of weeks ago, some bozo on TV who's always got his sleeves rolled up, he's a walking, talking heart attack, said that the bear market was over. Wow. Wonder what happened there. This is what this is. This is a big con game. And like I said, I will challenge anybody who's willing to come on a show and go against me, because I will tear them apart. For the retail trader, it is not in your interest to trade stocks or options. You have no inside information. They cannot make a commission off of you. Therefore, they're going to tell you what I do is very, very dangerous. For example, if you want to day trade stocks and options, Doug, you need to have $25,000 in your account at the beginning of every single day. If you take on a position, you've got to replenish that account to make sure it's at $25,000 at least before you could take another position. Well, in the futures market, including your education, I would suggest no more than $10,000 at all, every single day. If you take a position in the stock market and you close it out, there's this thing called T+2. Trade day +2, depending on when you're closed out in that given day, you're not going to get your own money back for 2 days, Doug. Your own money. Because the moment you deposit it into a bank or one of these trading houses, they look at it as their money. You could trade several times a day in the futures market and never ever suffer from that issue as long as you have enough money in your account to cover the margin requirement, which let's say in the S&P 500 would be like $500. It's a way for the retail person to control their lives. Is it dangerous? Of course it is. Everything's dangerous. But I can tell you it's a lot safer than stocks and options are. That I can guarantee you, and I can prove it every single day.
For the person out there, that wants to get into this and they do it, is there an age in which, because look, you have a lot of people come and say, well, I want to do a 401k plan. I'm going to do my mutual funds, those kind of things. But just let's make sure that we're getting out there information. Those mutual funds, those 401ks, everything rolled in, annuities, however you want to put it, are also very much affected by what we just talked about the institutional investor. I mean, they're very, because at the end of the day, it's multiple trades built together into this. So at the end of the day, I want to take a few scenarios here, Patrick, and I think it's just an honest assessment here. Let's take the 25-year-old, let's take the 45-year-old, and let's take the 55-year-old. In your assessment, let's start with the 25-year-old. Starting out, getting going, wanting to put money ahead, wanting to do investments, wanting to get a nest egg going. How does what you see their current options are in, going out there, rolling dice with an, like I said, the old, online account, buying stocks as they will at the mercy, or doing something day trading if they happen to have enough money, or futures. Where do you see a 25-year-old? What would you recommend?
Well, that's sort of a loaded question because we don't know their background. Okay. Are they full-time? Can they work full-time? Absolutely. And the first thing that I encourage everybody, whether you're the 25, the 50, or the 65-year-old who's retiring, is if you have a job and you're bringing money in, that is number one. You absolutely do not ever sacrifice that for any reason. And if you need to trade to make money right now, I will not sell you a program and I will not coach you because I will not get into that. I won't do it. I can't. Because there's enough pressure on you to learn a new skill already. When you put your back up against the wall, it's a losing proposition, and I will not do that. Now, if you've got somebody, I've got several people that work in the restaurant and bar industry. They work at night. They make a great living now. They trade in the morning. They stay up. They trade a few hours in the morning. They're gone. They go to sleep. They come back over and over and over again. If you are working a 9-to-5 job, we have our classrooms at night. We teach you how to do it at night. You can absolutely trade in the overnight. Do I suggest you try to stay up all night long? No, you can't. Nobody can do that. I was as close to a T2000 liquid terminator that there ever was. I used to be able to go days without sleep. I don't suggest that for anybody right now. But you've always got an opportunity. For, let's say, the 45-year-old, you're budgeting your money, you've got a family. If you are gainfully employed, you stay there. You do not leave. You get everything you can out of your career. And that's the best time, in my opinion, to learn this because you're not necessarily building your future. You're on your path to your future already. You've got responsibility. You know what to do. When you're retired, you have money. This is the first thing that I would suggest to people. I would not take more than $10,000 to put towards futures. It's expendable money if you have it. If you don't have it, I can't help you. I am not one of these guys at some brokerage who's telling you, well, generally, Doug, I only take $1 million clients. And, you're 200. Doug, I like you. So I'll take your 200,000 just because I like. I've seen a bunch of these guys do this every single day for years. You need to watch your own money. And if you're putting all of that money into one basket, it never ends well. Never ends well. Because you are at the mercy of the institutional side. Control your own stuff. Control your own life.
And looking at that, okay, let's take that out a step, because, and I think the first step is like in anything. And look, a full disclaimer here from my perspective of show, and I think Patrick say, is number one, know your own self, know what you have, make sure you're always taking care of yourself. Nothing in life, for the most part, don't believe the fairy tale. The guy's not going to show up on your doorstep with the check from Publishers Clearinghouse. So it's not happening. Okay, make sure you take care of yourself. And it's sort of, like what my dad always said. He would occasionally go and he liked to go play blackjack. He said, well, I took $200. That's how much money I had. If I lost it, I lost it. If I didn't, I didn't. He said, I'm fine with that. Or buying lottery tickets. He said, I don't care. This is money that you want to use. You have it, and it's expendable money. You're not going to lose your house if you don't pay the payment or anything else. This is money that you can build a better future on. So we got that out of the way, and just to make sure anybody who listens to the podcast understands that. What background or have you seen that adjusts well to this training? Do you need special background to get into this? Because a lot of people are scared to even get into regular retail trading because they feel like, again, they don't have power in that area. They really don't. But what about this?
Well, I've got students from all walks of life. I have music teachers. I have high school teachers. I have elementary school teachers. I have doctors, surgeons, dentists. I even have 2 former Goldman Sachs executives, because they quickly realized that when they left there, they didn't have that bankroll to use anymore. And they didn't know what the other side was holding anymore. So it's not so easy. It's very easy when you have a stacked deck. For example, we talk about the stacked deck all the time. And I was mentioning on another show that people were talking about all these politicians making all kinds of money trading. And I said, well, I really don't have any problem with that as long as they can show me they were doing the same thing before they were in office, which none of them will volunteer any trading statements to do. And then they said, well, they sit on these committees and they know all this. No, it's got nothing to do with this. Look at their donors. Their donors are telling them when things are going up and when things are going down. That's how this works. And that's how there's never any paper trail. And unless you've got somebody whispering in your ear, which is illegal, you need to learn how to watch what they are doing and take advantage of it. Use their rules against them, because you're never going to beat them. I'm going to tell this to everybody right now. Do not buy into this pipe dream where you're going to beat them. We lose all the time. The difference is we have risk management in place to limit the losses. And when we're winning, we have risk management in place to keep going. That's what makes us different from everyone else.
When you look at this, let's take this out, Patrick, for a second, of the realm of a program, whether it be, whether it's future trading, retail trading here for a let's take it back to the economy as you see it right now. When you've been talking, I have been fascinated. I happened to be in Iraq during 2008, 2009, during the real meltdown crash, when they were having to, the big, really unfortunately, the big banks became impregnable instead of, too big to fail. Now they're literally too big to fail. They will not let them fail after they sacrificed a few on the altar, so to speak. But I've been fascinated with the insiders things that's been going on there. The discussions on, that really your big institutions were trading on each other internally. We see this on into the 5 and 10 years over the last 10 years of this market.
Well,
should people be skeptical of this market?
No, absolutely. And if you give me a minute, I can go through a few different scenarios for you.
Go for it.
The stock market in and of itself is not a great divining rod of the economy. And the reason being is I remember in 2008 when, we shall not name his name, was in the White House. The economy was terrible. Real unemployment was at 16%, yet somehow after it puked its guts out, it started melting up for the next 7 years. Well, how is that possible? It's possible because the banks were driving it up very slowly but surely. And then you could go out and say, oh, the stock market's going up. Everything's wonderful. Donald Trump comes in. Unemployment is down to less than 5%. Everybody is working. Everybody is being bid up for a higher, better paying job because the economy is on fire. What happens? The stock market made new highs 100 freaking times. Then this guy takes over. He's installed. The market starts going straight up. Well, half the people in this country were told to stay home or lost their jobs during a hoax. Where was all this activity coming from? Who was buying stuff? Nobody was going out. People were broke. How's it possible? Oh, everything's great. Don't worry about it. It's awesome. Well, sooner or later, the chickens come home to roost. The big money's running up as far as they can. They have absolutely no retail participation anymore. So now they start selling their positions. And what's going to happen? Unfortunately, a bunch of the retail people that were stuck in those funds that those retail guys said are freaking awesome can't get out of them now. It's just a cycle. It's up and down, Doug. That's how this thing works.
And so it's saying the old joke, you made it early in the buying the dips. Well, the question for many people right now, and I think, and this is an honest answer, when you look across the bond market, when you look across the debt market, you look across the other issues, and now this discussion of, oh, I love how you said, oh, the bear market's over. The bear market, I don't think has started in this issue at this point, much less over. But the question will become, in this situation with these institutionals become so ingrained in this, where does it pan out? And if you're looking at it from a perspective of, let's say buying a house, not buying a house, doing investing, is this, I've heard it on the extreme, and I'd love to get your take. I've heard it on the extreme of, buy MREs and put them in your cabinet because we're headed to an apocalypse. And then I've heard it on the other side, oh, this is a correction, we'll be back tomorrow. Where do you see it from the market perspective, attached and detached from the economy as a whole?
To me, and this is something that it's a very touchy subject with a lot of people. To me, I don't care if the stock market goes up or down. It means absolutely nothing to me. I own nothing. I am looking to take a position when I see the big money selling. I'm looking to take a position with the big money buying. I had a fantastic education being at Wachovia Securities in the 2000s because I learned right then and there I would never get involved with that side of the business. What do I see now? I see no retail money coming in. I see the big hedge funds dumping things, starting to sell out of things quickly. Or really, not even quickly, excuse me, I misspoke. It's actually a very orderly sell-off right now. People think that 1,000 points down in the day in the Dow is a big thing. That's not a big thing. When the market goes lock limit down and it can't move and it's shut off, something's going on. And you'll know when something is going on. The economy itself, I think certain states are doing very, very well. I live in the state of Florida with a phenomenal governor, maybe the greatest governor in the history of governors, where we don't even honestly relate to what's happened in the last year and a half because we were never put into this situation. I feel terrible for people in other states. But what do I think? I think that inflation, especially energy and food inflation, is completely manufactured. We could very easily, very, very easily feed and fuel our own people to the levels we were when Donald Trump was president. It's not an issue. It's just that your elected officials have chosen to not make it so because, in my opinion, they just don't like you and they don't like the way you vote. They don't like the things that you say. And anytime you say something against them, you need to pay for that. I think it's going to get worse.
It's that punishment moving out mentality as we look at it. As we look at here, one of the things I do want to go back on, and we talked about because when we look at the markets that you're talking about, we talk about stocks. We sort of use these terms interchangeably: commodities, stocks, futures. A lot of people will go back, and you look at this from a commodities. Are you looking at, sort of like the Chicago exchanges where you're trading in the golds, the silvers, the pork bellies, the oranges, and then are you watching the markets from the stock perspective, futures, trading like that? Go back into that just a minute because I want to make sure because I think I may have done it too, but I want to make sure that we didn't confuse those two issues right quick.
Sure. The futures market, for example, and the commodities market, we actively use instruments like crude oil, gold. We use the equities, the S&P 500, the Dow 30, which is the YM, the NASDAQ, the NQ. We use those as the vehicles to trade with. Here's the reason why. Why am I going to purchase an oil company that produces oil, that drills for oil, that takes all the risk when I can just decide where I believe oil is going and go with that move. Oil doesn't care what the oil industry does. But the other way around is an entirely different story. Something happens in oil, the entire oil industry gets blown up. That's what happens. So going back to what we were saying before, it's much, much safer. I would much rather deal with the commodity, the actual raw instrument itself, than try to pick stocks, because that's just a loser's game. So for example, we teach how to trade the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, the Dow, gold, and oil, where you're actually taking a position in those commodities. And you're not owning a company that deals in those commodities that has so much risk, like economic risk, financial risk, geopolitical risk, sector risk. For example, years ago when BP oil blew up, when their platform blew up, the entire sector got hit. Exxon had nothing to do with that. So why is Exxon getting hit? I don't want to take that kind of risk. And this is something that a lot of people don't explain to you. Why are you putting yourself in that basket of risk when you don't have to?
Well, and I think that's the important part to understand. That's why I wanted to go back over that, because it was, we were talking, we got sort of into individualized and everything else in these risk management, as you put it. You've talked about a vast majority of people. What do you feel like, and then not specifically what you're doing, but I think it's interesting information. It seems to me, and I have 3 kids, 23 through 30, and we've done our best to try and train them, to understand money, to understand, to make sure they pay their bills, do the normal stuff, how to do checks, how to know credits, those kind of things. What do you see, Patrick, is the overall financial literacy of most people right now?
0. And I see this all the time. For years, I was, in my former life, I would see people making huge paychecks and spending 120% of it because it was never, ever going to end. I think financial responsibility is quite possibly the most important skill that anyone can develop. But you first have to accept who you are and not care what anybody else thinks of you. That flashy car is not going to make you more attractive to somebody. It's going to make you a target. You don't need to spend your money on ridiculous things. You don't need to put your money in places that can get locked up. For example, we were speaking about banks earlier, and I tell people all the time, do not keep all of your money in a bank. Because, for example, one time we had a stellar freaking month in Chicago. So we went down the street, and I always cash paychecks. I never keep anything in the bank. I keep enough in there to pay my bills. We go to the biggest bank in America. They couldn't cash our checks. But you're the biggest bank in America. How can you not cash this check? We don't have it. So why would you ever keep your money in a place that you can't easily access? If they can keep it and they can allegedly protect it, they can hold on to it too. But what I would tell everybody is get a job immediately for your children. Whether they're cleaning up the house, whether they're mowing the lawn, they're working, pay them a fair wage. They begin to understand what a dollar is worth. It's not all this Washington economics that doesn't make any freaking sense in the world, where it's just an unending flow of cash because they just keep tapping the taxpayer and printing money. And sooner or later, that is going to come to an end, and it's going to get painful.
That is important. When you look at it from a perspective of understanding the basics. I talk about this all the time on the political side, and we both mutual friends, John Fredericks. I mean, we have a lot, and we talk about this. And I tell John all the time, John, I love John's passion, and we always come back to race. He said, "Oh, Doug, it's going to happen." I say, John, look at the fundamentals. Look at the fundamentals, and it's the same in money as well. And I may agree with your assessment, but I agree with your assessment because I see, this building block, this building block, this building block, and I see what actually can come. And I think too many times we have abandoned some of those principles and believe that, frankly, that the how many times have you seen it, Patrick? Somebody come or call Target Trading and say, "Look, I'm going to do this," and you sort of get into it, and it's like the rules don't apply to me. I mean, it's just amazing. We sort of encourage that culture.
Well, one thing, Doug, is I get this all the time. Because the first thing that I tell people when they come on with us is you need to forget everything you ever knew about trading before you got here. Because if it was so scary good, why are you here? It never worked. And it's not going to work now. And before when you were speaking about getting into the futures trading and whatnot for different age groups, it's not necessarily so much an age group. First and foremost, we're going to make sure you're financially stable enough to do it, or I won't sell you a product. After that, the next question we ask you, has you ever traded futures before? And if you have not, you are the perfect candidate for this because you don't have any bad habits and you're not jaded by the market. It's that simple. The people that I find that are most difficult to teach are the ones who know absolutely everything, and they will fight with me every single day until I break them. And then they, to this day, are my most ardent supporters because I showed them a way to do it. I showed them how to do it correctly. I showed them you're going to have to accept that you're not going to be right every single time. And if you can't take that, this is not the business for you because this is a grind. It is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Can you absolutely do very, very well in this business? It can be an entirely new life for you if you allow it to be. If you think you're going to impose your will on the market, this is not for you. Don't do it, and I'll be the first one to tell you, whatever you do, stay out of this business.
I understand that. Well, let's do. I want to do something, and I want to transition. But before we transition, because I did, promise sort of people you had an amazing background, and I think they've gotten a taste of it now. And this is going. I want to do this more as people digest what you've been saying. But if somebody were wanting to, participate in this, I know, with target trading, what would be the first step toward? And I'll just use Doug Collins. Yeah, I have no futures background. I've dabbled with stocks, but for the most part, I've just earned a living, paid my bills, have a little bit of money built up. I'm coming to you, Patrick, and say, look, what do I do? What do I do? If you're a Doug Collins listener, what do they need to do? And they're saying, hey, I've heard this guy named Patrick. His passion's amazing. And hey, I'm tired of chasing this. I want to try something else. What do they do?
First of all, are you literate with a computer? Which I know that sounds like a shocking question to ask. But if you can only turn your computer on, we're going to have to help you out a little bit before we turn you loose. Okay. First of all, you got to be computer literate. It's not that hard. We have an onboarding process that helps you. Second of all, you need to have a futures account. Before you were saying things about TG Ameritrade and whatnot. Those are primarily stock and options platforms. They are terrible for futures. They will charge you up the yin-yang in margin. It is not something that you want to do. We can offer suggestions. Now, we have absolutely no connection with anyone. There's no conflict of interest. We offer several different brokers, a couple of different platforms, entirely up to you. You do whatever you want. The only thing that I do in this business, as far as the educational side, is teach. That's all we do. We then get you set up on the computer. We load up your charts. And then you go into what we have is called the Randall's Ramp Up Room, which is at night. So anybody who has a job who can do this at night, you go into the room. We teach you how to take our most basic trade. It's a reversal. After you show us you can do this, you get promoted to the main room. And when everybody comes in, we always play Welcome to the Jungle because now they're going to see what the real beating is like. After that, there are several different levels of money management. We teach you how to do specific set entries at one level, then another set at a different level, and then we'll do another round on the simulator. And here's the reason why. If you cannot do it on a simulator, you cannot do it live. I don't care what anybody tells you. You're going to have a bunch of people who say, well, if you can't do, we just do it live. Generally, that's the same guy who's in cahoots with the broker that you're using because they make a commission every time you go in or out of the market and they don't care whether you succeed or not. We do. My name is on this. All I care about is winning. And a lot of people don't like the approach, but believe me, every single student in that room has to show every single screenshot that they take of every single entry. They cannot lie to us because we make them use the same account. They have to send the screenshot. And here's the rub, Doug. I know where the entries are because I draw them the day before. I'm the only guy in this business that does this. So you can't screw around. You can't mess around. You can't lie. You can't just talk your way out of something. You do something wrong, you hear about it. Generally, it's first I ask you to do something, then I tell you to do it. And that's how you do this. Could you do it in 6 months? You can do it in 6 months. Could you do it in a year and a half? That's a loaded question. It all depends if you're willing to learn, and more importantly, are you going to allow me to teach you? Because if you're not going to allow me to teach you, do not do this. Stay out of this business. And the reason being is you're not going to listen to me, so you're going to be trading against me. And it's not going to end up well for you.
When you look at it, and you said $10,000, basically going through the course, and without getting into specifics, I want people, if they're interested in this, that's up to them. They come to you and you'll deal with the issues of the course. But for an overall perspective, if somebody, you said 6 months, year and a half, it's sort of at your self-paced kind of atmosphere, it sounds like. Realistically, someone who maybe if they have a job, a 9 to 5, but they do have some time in the evenings, when could they be making what we'll call live trades in a sense of making money or losing money? Of course, you can't always say that, let's say they do, but when they're trading, they do it right, they're going to make money. What's the timeline?
You have to earn your way. There is no time limit. And I could give you, for an example, I have an elementary school teacher. Her name is Lee. She's been with us almost a year. She went through 3 separate rounds of simulated money management in that time frame. Last week, she went live. And now she learned on the minis. We put her on the micros, which is 1/10 the size, just to get her feet wet. So there's not that shock of going into the big money type stuff. In her first week, she's made over $900 of live real money. And she is a working 3rd grade teacher. She trades before the market opens, and then she goes to school and she's done. She shuts it down. She goes to work. She does it pre-market, which is early in the morning. I think that's one of the best times you can possibly trade.
Well, and that gives you an opportunity. Then she can check it in the evenings or whatever and be ready for the next morning and go. How often do the class, quote, is this it sounds like it's a non-traditional kind of class environment.
It is. We have an online classroom where you're seeing our charts. We teach you the techniques, and at the level you are only allowed to execute said techniques. You must send in a screenshot of every single thing that you do on the same account, so we see everything that you do. And you're going to hear certain things like this in this business. Well, show me your statements. Awesome. Which statement do you want to see? The one where I made 5,000, 50,000, or 500,000 that day? Because anybody can fake a statement. And the real thing is in this business is if you're going to go by the NFA rules, you have to show similar results in the same accounts. You just can't cherry pick something. You can't just say, oh, well, this is what we did here without showing all your other accounts. You've got to show everything. And this is why a lot of people won't do this. I don't go into a room and signal call for people. I teach them a method. You have to take the signal because you have to earn your way to the next contract size. You have to earn your way from 2 to 6 before you can go to the next round. You have to do that again. Then the choice is up to you. Do you want to go another round of simulated trading? Do you want to go in the micros? Do you want to go in the minis? The choice is yours. And I'll tell you, if you're not ready, you're absolutely not ready. Because my reputation means everything to me. I can prove what I do every single day. I've been fighting the freaking charlatans in this business for years. They've all got big mouths until it's time to step up, and then they're nowhere to be seen. Don't believe a word I'm telling you, Doug. Go to Trustpilot. I've got 100 5-star reviews, not one negative review on Trustpilot. Don't believe a word I'm telling you. Believe them.
Is there an end result, Patrick? Is the end like that they went through the simulations, they went through the platforms, they've done everything? At what point is there an alumnus, or is there always a target trading family?
There's always the family here for you if that's what you choose. I have several people on both sides that I've got dozens of live traders in my room any day trading for live real money. They choose to be there. I have other people who refuse to watch the room because they are so ingrained in what they do now. They don't care what anybody else is doing. They don't get distracted by what anybody else is doing. And they still send their entries into me every single day by screenshot, every day, because they're always looking for the critique to get better, because you can always get better, because this is a craft. You have to work at it every single day to get better. And you're always looking for that edge. And they're also looking for somebody to be honest with them. They're looking to be responsible for every single thing they do, because Another portion of our business that separates us from everyone else is accountability. You've got to send in every single entry that you take. Because if you don't, there's no way we can help you. If you want to lie to yourself, go right ahead. I can't help you. If you want to be honest with yourself and you want to allow me to help you, we can help you.
That is it. Patrick, before we get going here in just a minute, one of the passions, I see this now, and when I looked it up, you have a passion that just comes through the screen and talking about this. And I love how you just said to be honest. And again, it's for some people, it's not for some people. We're not out here selling, pyramid selling on late night TV. If you want to learn this, go learn it. If you don't. And if you don't take the advice, then basically shut up. Just do that right. But your passion is interesting because you were an MMA fighter. At one point, several years ago, like the rest of us, we've grown up a little bit. Did that fighting spirit translate over into what you saw at Wachovia and then into what you're doing now?
Well, I can tell you why I was brought into this business. At the time, I had just won the World Extreme Fighting Lightweight World Championship. At that time, it was still an organization that had some credibility, but the UFC had taken over, and it was a smaller organization. And a guy that I used to train, who was a big trader at Solomon Brothers, had said, well, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? And I said, well, I got a lot of things going for me, and I'm thinking about this. He goes, well, you're going to come work for me. And I said, well, Mike, I don't know anything about trading. And he said, that's exactly the reason that I want you, is because you know nothing about it. You have no bad habits, and I know you're never going to quit. And he hired me, and he brought me into the business, and he taught me the basis of every single thing that I know and every single thing that I live by. The fighting life taught me it made me who I am. I've had my butt kicked off this planet more times than I can count. I've been knocked out all over the world. I've done my share of knocking out. I've done my share of tapping people out. I've done my share of beating people down, and nobody ever wins a fight. What do you learn from that fight is what makes you different from everyone else. And I learned that it's not the flashiest guy that wins. It's not the biggest, strongest, fastest guy that wins. It's the guy who has the most discipline and makes the fewest mistakes, and then capitalizes when a mistake is made. And it taught me the patience and the discipline to take a freaking beating and wait for my shot and then take it. That's what it taught me.
That is it. Folks, you're not going to hear financial advice like this on anywhere else. You're not going to hear a discussion of basically taking ownership for what you do and realizing that you've got to learn that nothing's given to you unless you are one of those that are, that have billions before you were born. Even then, if you don't know how to keep it, guess what? Within a couple of generations, it'll be gone. But for most of us, you're looking for a way to take what money you have, make it better. You're looking for a way to be disciplined. You're looking for a way to not be one that gets led to a institutional dominated society when you're a bank coming as a single. I think this is an interesting time. It's why I wanted Patrick on here. His passion is incredible. It's something that I wanted, especially our younger listeners and also some of our older listeners to the podcast to realize that, hey, here's something you can try. Here's something if you're looking to do, learn a skill, learn something, have the accountability. This is what Patrick and them offer. Patrick, before we get going, tell people how they can find you and what they can do when they find you to get started.
You can go to our website, targettradingacademy.com, Facebook page, Target Trading Academy. Phone number is 888-203-3731. I encourage everyone, please go to our YouTube page. See what I do, Target Trading Academy, YouTube. And I challenge anybody out there to find somebody else in this business who calls these levels out the day before like I do and has the kind of success that we do with our students. I'm gonna tell you something right now, you're not gonna find it. That's what makes us different from everyone else. Give us a call and we'll tell you this is not something for you. We will be the first ones to tell you, because I honestly, after being in the retail side of the business, on the financial side, I can't live it like that after what I saw. And that's why I quit that business, because I could not be a part of it.
Well, Patrick, one of the reasons I like you is you're a straight shooter. You sit there and tell people, again, and what I admire is if it's not for you, he'll tell you. And folks, that is what we need more now more than ever, especially with an administration and an economy like it is right now. You need somebody to just be honest with you and say, here's what we can offer. Here's what we can't offer. And we don't think this is for you. So folks, take Patrick up on it. If you're looking for something, Target Trading Academy, you can go find him. But more importantly, the life lessons learned today is that you keep fighting. You learn what the obstacles are, you overcome those obstacles, and then whether it's in your life, your family, your relationships, or your finances, take responsibility for your life. I'm tired of seeing people out in this world, in this country, blaming everybody else for everything. That's not what America is. America's giving you the opportunity to take control of your life, find people who are willing to help you along, make good decisions, and do that. That's why we do the Doug Collins podcast, to give you as much information as we possibly can so that you can make the decisions that are important for you. So, folks, take this advice, take it, leave it, find it out, go try him, take him up on his offer, go find somebody else. And when you find it doesn't work, he'll come right here on the podcast and debate the one that took you down the wrong path. That's what we're here about today. So, folks, take this Doug Collins podcast, share it, use it, download it, make sure people know it. This is information that could actually change your life. Thanks for being with us today on the Doug Collins podcast. Patrick, we appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much, Doug.
Hey, everybody, I just want to talk about sleep. You know why I want to talk about sleep? It's because I just got out from underneath my MyPillow bed sheets and my pillow that I keep under my head every night, because I like to sleep on my side. I like to sleep on my back. I like to sleep, I move at night, and MyPillow is just the best thing that goes under my head. It keeps me getting restful sleep. The sheets are amazing. It's just what you need. Everybody understands you need 7 hours of sleep. Why not sleep in some of the best products out there? And Mike and the folks at MyPillow are great folks to do this with. And you can go to mypillow.com, or you can call them at 800-564-8475. Use code word Collins, Collins. You won't want to miss this. If you have not got these Giza bed sheets, you need them. They're amazing. They're soft. They don't wear out. You need those to get that sleep against your body at night and provide that cooling, just soothing nature that lets you get the most sleep. But they're not just about bed sheets and pillows. They also have the My Slippers. Amazing. I've talked to you about it before. I don't wear slippers, but I do wear My Slippers. They're amazingly comfortable. You can wear them outside. You can wear them inside. Great products. You've got towels. You've got all kinds of stuff. Go to mypillow.com. It's spring cleaning time. It's springtime to get out there and try and buy new things. Replace some of your old stuff. You'll want to replace your towels. Get some other products for your bedroom. All at mypillow.com. Mypillow.com, or call 800-564-8475. Use the promo code Collins, Collins, when you check out. I guarantee you will be satisfied.